Today we're talking about air defense within Flashpoint Campaigns Southern Storm, so anti-air, defense against helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, and we're going to talk about how to beat them, how our weapon systems on the battlefield work, and kind of what our multi-unit overlays are, so our air defense bubble. So let's just start off by taking a look at this Apache. The Apache does have air defense, some air defense capabilities, but we need to understand the offense before we kind of position our defense. So let's right click this unit. Obviously, we're not doing blue on blue, we're doing blue on red. But let's go to our subunit inspector and inspect our weapons. So the Apache is a very capable platform. It's very powerful. So if we start thinking about how we're going to counter air defense against a NATO weapon system like the Apache, we can see that the chain gun is air defense capable and it has around a 3,000 meter range. So we start thinking, all right, so if the Apache gets close enough, he's going to engage our units at a maximum range of 3,000. And then we go, okay, well, he also has ATGMs and it has a max range between 500 and 8,000 meter range. So at that point, we go, okay, so our air defense bubble needs to be at least 8,000 meters if that Apache is going to get into it and kind of shoot us from like a very far distance away. And then he also has rockets. So let's say he runs out of ATGMs and he starts engaging us with his rocket pod. Then he can only engage us within like 100 to 6,000 meter range. So we start like layering our air defense bubble. We can put our SAMs out to kind of engage the Apache. And then if our SAMs get destroyed, then we can bring those. Then our next layer would be our Vulcan cannon, which has a range of around 500. And then lastly, if he's like within that chain gun range, we have man pads. So start thinking of layers for your air defense system. So let's just close this Apache and kind of take a look at a few things. So we have a SAM system right here, a surface-to-air missile. If we right-click and go air defense against helicopters, depending on where this unit is positioned, you'll see that there's thick red lines around the outside. That's its maximum range. So if we were to move this unit around the battlefield to just random positions that I highlighted, you'll see that its maximum range or its line of sight does become obstructed, but as you see, it kind of opens up areas where this unit can engage depending on what it can see. And we'll talk about suppression of enemy air defense later. And that goes same thing for the Vulcan. And as you see, the Vulcan is a bit different. We're going to talk about those hatch patterns and solid patterns here in a moment. And then if we grab our man pad right here, our man pad is a fairly capable. It almost like outclasses the SAM system. But remember, we're talking layers right here. I mean, the SAM is obviously has better sensors and everything like that. So what we have here, let's click on our SAM once more and drag him way up here to where he's kind of away from everyone. This solid, let's just say transparent orange, is basically everything that this unit can engage. So this is just danger area for the hinds that come into us. If they're operating outside or within this orange area, like this thick orange red line, then they are outside of our range and we cannot engage them. So it just basically ranges. Then if we go to the subunit inspector, we can see that our weapon systems have a range of 9,000 meters. So we outrange the Apache by 1,000 meters depending on when we spot it. It's also an air defense weapon, slow fire, and it has IR homing guidance and it has 12 rounds. So that's just something we need to think about when we think about our layered air defense system. So we're going to leave him over there, or actually we're just going to pull him back. Oops. We're going to pull him back and we're going to start talking about our Vulcan. So as you see, our Vulcan is purple and its lines are horizontal. The horizontal means like flak or like cannon fire, except not auto cannon fire. So basically these hatch lines are basically for Vulcan air defense systems or anything with a cannon that's strictly like AA or AAA air defense system. And as you see, depending on where it is a kind of a capable weapon system. It doesn't have that much range, and it's primarily supposed to be used against anti-aircraft or helicopters and airplanes. So as you see, it has around a 1,600 meter range. So you're going to layer these all over the battlefield, and they're primarily probably going to move forward with your force to kind of create like not so much a SHORAD, that's short range air defense. It could, I guess, be classified as a SHORAD, but that's how they're going to operate. So these guys are going to be like working with your screening force a little bit. So let's just move them back down. And then we have our man pads. Our man pads are very capable, but they do not have great sensors. Right? So even though we have like a man pad system, subunit inspector, let's go like this. Night vision, gun sights, can classify units within 10,000 meters, identify at 2,500 meters. So they can spot a helicopter or detect a helicopter at 10,000 meters, or just say, hey, there's something flying out there. But they won't be able to do a full identification until it's at 2,500 meters. They have a Stinger with a 5,000 meter range, so 100 to 5,000 meters, slow rate of fire, and 2. And their actual hand grenades aren't air defense capable, which makes perfect sense. So we can kind of use them with a screening force as well. They kind of outrange the they definitely outrange the Vulcans. The Vulcans are faster, more capable, but your man pads are going to be heavy hitters. They're just going to be slower firing. So we're going to move them back real quick. And then if we actually just grab a random, let's just grab our thermal, which is our Bradley. The vertical hatch lines, as you see, this is also an air defense capable unit as well. So if we click on this unit, we can see this ADL right here. ADL, air defense capable unit. And it has, it says 3,500 meter range, but that's not 3,500 meters. So that's a very small radius. I'm not quite sure exactly what the air defense capability range is. It says 3,500, 500, 500, 1,500. I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm not going to lie. And then your tank does have a small air defense capability as well. But there are some units that are not. So let's click on our Commando. As you see, even though our Commando has a 30 cal machine gun, he has no air defense capability. So this is a relatively weak recon unit as well. Like we identified that he was just like a fast, mobile, really light, kind of expendable unit. So he has no air defense capability either. So if he comes across a recon helicopter or even like an attack helicopter, he's basically just trying to hide because he will kind of just get torn to pieces. And all right, now let's move on to, we've talked a little bit about helicopters and everything. Let's go to our multi-unit display, turn everything off, go and talk about planes. As you see, the planes do fly a bit higher than the helicopters. The helicopters fly at nap of the earth level, whereas the planes are a bit further above. And as you see, this is their basic, or the SAM system. Where's our SAM at? Right here. This is our SAM range. As you see, it has that solid line. It tells us everywhere it can shoot. And if we move him around the map like that, that range or that ring. So there is definitely a lot of capability within the SAM system as far as going against planes. So once these planes enter this airspace right here, this is like shows us our full air defense bubble. They will be destroyed at that maximum 9,000 meter range. That's when you need things like suppression of enemy air defenses, or kind of just recon out these units and destroy them with artillery fire. Where's our Vulcan? So we can actually do this with the Vulcan as well. And as you see, we have that purple hatch pattern. These are effective against fixed wing airframes as well. Their range is much smaller. I'm not sure how capable of fire they are, or how like lethal they are. But as you see, that's basically the 600 meter radius. If an airplane flies into this area, this is its air defense bubble. So right here, we can kind of talk a little bit about our layers and then like the man pads, right? So the man pads, if we can move him somewhere. So the man pads are right here. They have this range ring, which is, it looks like, oh, this is the 5,000 meters. So they're a bit more capable than the Vulcans at short range. So your Vulcans are primarily going to be for close range engagements against helicopters, or kind of like your last resort if you're thinking fixed wing. So if we kind of just go like this, we can pull everyone back and we can say, all right, so our Vulcans with our main fighting force, our SAM, where's our SAM at? It's kind of our primarily like our outside of our bubble. Our Vulcan's going to be our inside, and then our man pads are going to be a bit forward. So if an airframe does come in, like I believe I have an Albatross coming in, first it needs to survive our outer bubble, which is our SAM air system. And then at which point it needs to survive our man pad system, which is a 5,000 meter range, also a slow rate of fire right here. And then finally, it needs to survive our Vulcan, and our Vulcan is our last layer of our air defense system. Well, not our last layer. No, it would be our last layer, because I don't think the tanks can shoot at fixed wing airframes. So our Vulcan is technically our last layer in our air defense bubble against fixed wing. Whereas if we were going to talk about helicopters, we would have our SAM can primarily be if it's in a good spot, could be our primary layer because it has the most range, followed by our man pads just like before. And then our Vulcans would be our next layer. And then our final layer would actually be our individual units right here with their small range. So we have 4 layers against helicopters, 3 layers against fixed wing. And then it all comes down to how you manage those weapon systems. So I did put some helicopters on the battlefield. I'm not exactly sure how they are going to perform. As always, we can talk about these weapon systems, but we can never get them kind of to work correctly. We're going to have, so the helicopters are going to be approaching from the north. Our manpad's going to be our first layer. Vulcan's going to be our next layer because we're going to move our tanks to this area right here. Remember, these ATGMs are going to outrange us, so technically, this Vulcan's, that doesn't make sense to have that Vulcan up there with them. It's going to be our manpads followed by our surface-to-air missiles. That way, when these helicopters show up, we have layer 1 manpads, layer 2 surface-to-air, and if the helicopters truly do survive, we do have a Vulcan. And this guy's a bit out there. It's not the exact spot I would put him normally, but he just has a lot. He can just see a lot right here, and I know the helicopters are coming from that direction. That's all. And then we do have our own Apache, and we're not going to use him too much. So all we're going to do is we're just going to play through this scenario. Not very long. We're just going to watch some helicopters get shot down. That's basically all we're going to do. So we're going to ask this tank to move forward. That's all we're going to do. He's going to screen. We're going to ask this tank right here to move forward as well. He's going to screen as well. And then we're going to ask our Bradleys to move forward. That's it. And then we're going to hit play. So basically our tanks are going to provide overwatch on this 500-point victory cap. And then we do have an Apache if we do just kind of want to watch things get blown up. So let's hit the start button. All right, so we start making our first couple spots. Oh, wow. So right off the bat, we saw this SAM system instantly engage that target. Obviously, it was a helicopter. I put like 5 or 6 helicopters out there. So this SAM system is extremely, extremely powerful. And the second it detects something, it actually engages them. The manpads, I don't think, have really sensed anything, and that may just be due to their limited identification range. So just because they do have like a massive air defense ring, it depends on when they get spotted. So your guys are like looking up, and the SAM system probably detects them with its sensors, whereas manpads spot them with line of sight or their eyes. So let's hit resume. All right. All right, and he returns fire. So what just happened right there, we did have a small little exchange. So if we bring this, thank you, I know it's paused. Sam suffers 1 damage, destroyed. So that's why, I mean, this is, like I said, this wasn't a good spot. He's just in a really good, I'm not quite sure as far as how the sensors work right now. So if we like click this unit and go subunit inspector and say sensors, it doesn't really say like that it has like some sort of like anti-air sensor. That's all. I'm just not like air defense sensor. So regardless, let's say yes. So we're still shooting down helicopters. The helicopters are returning fire to us. He's moving out of the way. Hopefully here in a moment. He's pulling back. Our tanks do begin to engage. Turn the volume down. It's like blow my ears out. And our tanks are doing their job, right? Remember, we do have like an air defense system. He can still kind of spot right up here. So if we pause. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, we can't really pause it. I wish we could pause it and pull up this multi-unit overlay. So let's just, oh, there it goes. All right, maybe it's just when it takes like a full time to pause. So now that we're on this ridge line, if we take a look at our air defense, they've fallen back. They can still kind of spot within this orange ring. Our manpads aren't doing the best, and that's probably because of like line of sight. They just don't have line of sight, and I guess they just can't see helicopters flying. But like I assumed that was going to happen. Our tanks are doing what they do best, shooting down people. Helicopters, I think the AI decided to like disengage with the helicopters, which makes sense, right? We do have a very intense air defense system going on right here. And that kind of summarizes everything. I think all we'll be waiting on is like the helicopters to return fire, and we're just not going to do that. So I hope you learned something. I hope a lot of that makes sense. I hope we saw like our mistake with our man pads, and like I said, the man pads are just based on it depends on their line of sight, depending on like this unit's line of sight and what systems they use, and that's why these aren't engaging, but these are engaging. And then obviously the Vulcans are way in the back. The helicopters were never going to get to our Vulcans because we have a very good layered air defense system. If you want to see more, it depends on my mood. I'll probably make some more. But yeah, man, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm enjoying a lot of Flashpoint Campaign Southern Storm. Cool. Peace.